Hi, friend. When it comes to creating infinite and unstoppable grit, you and I have something in common. We've both gone through some major setbacks in our life. More importantly, though, we've come out on the other side with a strength that we didn't possess prior to that setback. Now, if you feel like you've gone through some setbacks in your life, but you haven't gained any strength, resilience, or grit, then listen up, because this video is going to show you how to recognize that we aren't much different. In the fall of 2004, I had a pretty damn good job in the IT realm. I was a manager for a software company just outside of Boston, and earlier this summer of 2004, our CEO was removed and a new interim CEO came in, but he made no attempt to connect with this new employee base because he had other plans. He wanted to get the company ready to sell. Now, this role change was in the middle of a series of layoffs that had taken place, and the company was down from about 400 employees to about 250. And up to that point, each round, I had managed to survive and stay on, and I was beginning to feel like I was a little bit untouchable, a little arrogant, right? I got a call from my boss that I needed to come down for a brief discussion. And as I was walking to his office, hoping that he was going to be letting me know that I would probably be losing a couple more people from my team, instead, he said that it was me that was being let go. Fortunately, there was going to be a severance package, and while I felt some relief knowing that I had some financial runway in the coming weeks, the real impact of this layoff was yet to come. So I cleared out my desk and got my belongings, threw them in a box, and I left the building. And going from employed to unemployed in a flash is scary no matter how you slice it, right? And so I got into my car and I drove home, and this was a completely new setback in my life that I was wholly unprepared for in so many ways. When I walked into the house, my then wife, she asked me, "What are you doing here? Is everything okay?" And I told her about the layoff. And I could tell that she was disappointed. And we talked a little bit about it, but there wasn't much more discussion for the rest of the day. The next morning when I woke up, it felt really odd because I would normally do my morning routine where I would get ready for work, yet my mind was still processing the tasks that I would normally do when I did get to the office in the morning. I was tired from the stress of the job that I had had, and all of a sudden that stress was lifted. And I wanted to decompress from that for a little bit, right? And so for the next couple of days, I didn't do much. I kind of felt lost. I didn't know which way to go and what to do. But I really didn't want to either do anything, because this was the first time in my life that I'd been laid off from a job, and I really didn't know what to expect. And so anyway, I created my own honey-do list to work on some projects around the house that I'd been meaning to get to and that I couldn't get to on the weekends. This was the perfect opportunity for me to do this. I was convinced that I was going to get a job pretty quickly, so I didn't worry about it. But for that first weekend, my wife was asking me what I was going to do about finding another job. And I assured her, look, I'd gotten other jobs very quickly in the past, and this would probably be the same way this time too. All I had to do was go online, find something listed, and I would probably get hired in the next couple of weeks without issue. She was also apprehensive, and I don't blame her. About 3 weeks into this plan of mine, we had a very pointed conversation one afternoon. And so I still held on to the belief that I would get a job as quickly as I had in the past. My wife was frustrated that I hadn't really begun my search at all. And in looking back, there were a whole host of things that I was facing now in terms of the setback. I was feeling pressured because I was the sole breadwinner for the family. I was tired, and I wanted a break from work so that I could recharge my batteries. And I was facing a limited severance, and not to mention that our marriage wasn't doing so well at the time. And so, reluctantly, I agreed to begin my search that very next Monday morning. Now, to my surprise, when I sat down at the computer, I was shocked at the lack of jobs that were available. I had heard that the job market was tight, and the role that I had had previously was as a team leader or a manager. And yet there weren't many roles to be found for this type of work. And what I did find for roles, I was unqualified for. There were a handful of team leader roles and some technical jobs, but they didn't pay the same rate that I was making before, and that was really important for us. And so I quickly became discouraged when I came across only 2 or 3 positions that I felt were close to what I had before. But they were also a very good distance away from my house. The commute would have been insane. And so to say that I was discouraged here is definitely an understatement. Each morning for the next week, I ran into the same results during the job search, and each day I would do less and less because I was getting more and more discouraged. And it got so bad that I found myself over at the unemployment office to sign up for benefits. And I'm glad that I did, because this was a lifesaver for me. And it was also an eye-opener for me to do too. I couldn't believe that I was in line for this, but at the very least it could help supplement the severance and give my family a month or 2 more of financial runway if need be. So it wasn't something I wanted to do, but I did it. And I was trying my best to not let this get me down. I wasn't being very mindful of the situation. There were nights when I laid awake for hours worrying about whether or not I would get a job or when that would happen, if we had to sell the house or not, and it wasn't helping my confidence when these thoughts were going around. So something had to change. Between the job drought and the prospects that weren't coming, the unemployment, which I am grateful for in hindsight, I had to take a different approach to this job search. I did have some other options that were available to me, and I wrote them down. I listed them because I needed something else, because what I was doing wasn't working. I still could focus on the honey-do list. That was an option, but that wasn't going to bring any money into the house unless I had some marketable skill outside of IT. I didn't. The next option that was available to me was career counseling. Now, as part of my separation package from the previous company, they had awarded us consultation with a career counseling service for as long as we needed it. And at first I didn't take them up on it. And so I called them, I set up an appointment, and when I went in to talk to this person, they gave me a new perspective. And it came as some reality that I may need to take a different role until a similar management role opened up down the road for me. And while I didn't want to do that, again, it was an option. I also could utilize my friends and former colleagues as a means to try to help find a new position as well. Several opportunities came up, but nothing really came to fruition. During one of the career counseling sessions, one of the best pieces of advice that I got was for me to imagine what my life would be, especially once I landed this new role. Now, initially, my feelings were of relief and some more financial stability, and also getting back on track with some of the home projects that we wanted to fund. But it was something that the career counselor said that landed on me the most. He asked me a question: what is the cost to me and my family if I didn't continue to look for work and to continue to let this get me down? Because I kind of had this fantasy that somebody was going to come and fix the situation for me. But my friend, no one else is ever coming. No matter what setback you are facing right now, one of the major tenets of grit is knowing this. And I'll repeat it again. No one else is coming to fix your setback for you. But the good news is you can create your own pathway through the worst of your setbacks. And so when the career counselor asked me that question, it did hit me right between the eyes, because I couldn't imagine us losing our home. I didn't want to put any more pressure on the marriage, but he was trying to get me to look into the future to see the scenarios that if I fought for this and fought my way through it, I could have a different outcome. Now, through the months of November and December that year, I was able to land a couple of job interviews, and one interview process had me going right to the very end, where a decision was going to be made between me and one other candidate. And after about a week or so, I didn't hear anything. And when I called them, they told me I didn't get the job. And I was kind of glad, because honestly, it was a few towns away and the commute was going to be well over almost an hour and a half to 2 hours each way. That's without traffic. And so, but it would have provided me enough income to match what I was earning before. And so when I learned that I didn't land that position, it was another hit to my confidence. But instead of giving up, I actually doubled down. I started to keep up a really good rhythm of sending out my resume to at least 3 companies a day. And I relaxed my expectations of what I was looking for, which opened up even more opportunities as options. But most importantly, I had to embrace that struggle. That it was ultimately going to pay off, though. I really had to stay grounded. During the last business day of 2004, I was doing my usual job search, though, when most people are typically enjoying that time, the Christmas break with their families, but something had changed for me on that day. A job prospect opened up that was very much aligned with the work that I was doing before, and it seemed like a perfect fit. So instead of me emailing the company, I didn't hesitate to call, and actually the person on the other end, the hiring manager, was there. She was working. I'm like, cool. She's like, can you come in? I'm like, yes. So I raced in there, and when I arrived, we sat down and we talked for close to an hour and a half, and she had to excuse herself because she wanted to go talk to the CEO. And she came back in about 10 minutes with a huge smile on her face. And she said that if I wanted the job, it was mine. And as you can imagine, I took it without even thinking about it. It was time. I had 1 week of severance left. But I learned a very valuable lesson about grit during this whole thing. And it has come down to serve me in other setbacks. And so in order to have grit, the only person that's going to save you is you. And the next time a similar setback comes your way and you've figured it out because you've worked your way through it, it's essential to understand what happened, what went right, what went wrong, and to learn from it so that you can apply those lessons that you've learned for the next time that you encounter a similar setback. I really hope that this example of grit can serve you in whatever setback that you're facing. And stay tuned, because I'm going to be doing more videos about other scenarios where I've had to employ grit to get back up and to keep moving. All right, guys, we'll see you on the other side.